Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of the Destiny and Beyond Gaming Podcast. I am Vigilant, and I am joined today by Killa Greg.
Hello.
And the Lady Guardian.
Hi.
What's up, guys? How you guys doing this week?
Hey, no complaints from me.
Yeah, I'm having a good week too, thank you.
Yeah, same here. It's been a pretty busy week in Destiny for the most part. A lot going on this week. We are not joined by Proxy this week. He will be back at a later date. He was a little busy today, and we want to get this out for you guys. But let's go into this week. It's been pretty crazy. We've had Iron Banner. We've had Festival of the Lost. We've had a lot of stuff going on. The Shattered Throne's back. Full Curse Week. What do you guys think?
I think it's really exciting. It's a good week to be playing Destiny. Certainly a lot to keep you busy for all of those that say they don't have much to do at the moment. So,
this week.
It's a grindy week, which fits quite well with our topic.
That's a very good point. And that list there, that made me realize how much I have to do, and it got me a little worried.
Yeah,
so,
and the raid on top of all that.
Yeah, which then got me worried again, because maybe I'm actually addicted to this. Like you say, oh, you got to do all this stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, I have so much to do.
It's all right. This podcast is like therapy, so
it really is.
I'm here for you, Greg.
Great. Who do I bill?
Yeah, this week has been nuts. I've been playing the hell out of Crucible just because, as many of you guys probably know, we went over it last week. It's been double XP all week for Iron Banner, and that's just been awesome. As of 2 hours ago, triple XP kicked in too, so I'm going to be playing some more of that. How have you guys liked that the Haunted Forest?
I've not been in there yet.
What?
I haven't had much
man.
time to play this week, so my weekend this weekend is just going to be Festival of the Lost to get my grind on. I'm really excited. It looks really good. But what about you guys?
I have loved it so far, but I could see it getting old pretty fast. Like you guys talked on your podcast last week before it had actually come out about how this is what you wanted the Infinite Forest to be the whole time. And while I think it's a thrilling concept, it's fine as like a weekly throwaway thing, but I think if this was like a main feature of a DLC, people would have been pretty disappointed in it.
I think it's a good starting point. A
Sure.
good starting point. This is what we always wanted the Infinite Forest to be, but it's like 1/10 of what we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
They can go further with this idea. I think they can definitely bring it forward. I mean, we've always wanted it to kind of be almost like a Destiny version of the Greater Rift system from Diablo 3. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. Basically, it's like almost like an infinite dungeon. You can go as far as you can go. In the Rift system. And it gets harder as you go. So I think this is a good start, but having the 15-minute time limit it's cool to mess around with from a gameplay point, just because you can kind of push that 15 minutes and see how far you can go, and there's a natural limit to as far as you can go. So the best players are going to get like tier 13. They're going to get up there, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty neat, but I'm almost positive I would like to see Bungie go even further on this.
And they're kind of brave to implement that timer system again, because every time they've used it before, it's ended up being removed. You think about Nightfalls, they removed that timer cap pretty quickly. So it'll be quite interesting to see, I think, when this is over, the people's rundowns after a week and how they felt about that.
I like the timer for what they currently have, because after level 7, your rewards don't get any better. Like level 7's kind of where you want to be. That's also in my experience pretty much where everybody winds up. Like I always wind up at like 6, 7, 8. I think I've reached 9 once, but that's pretty much it. But after level 7, you get that emblem, and then that's kind of it. You're just doing it for fun. So as the current implementation, I think it makes a lot of sense to have the timer. But if they actually did this right, if they took this nugget and turned it into a full-blown thing, I think inevitably they would have to get rid of it.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that. I think the way this works going forward is keeping this model where you're clearing floors, because I think that's really cool. But then having like a tiered system where you have different floors with scaling bosses. Because you already have, they have assets in the different bosses in the game. Like, why not have like a Crota-like fight as one of the bosses later on? You know what I mean?
Sure.
You can do all sorts of stuff with the assets you already have. You can just bring back villains. No one's gonna care.
Are you familiar with Bloodborne at all? Either of you?
For the somewhat.
Yeah.
No.
So Bloodborne has something similar to that called the Chalice dungeons, where they're relatively randomized, just extra activities. But in them, you just have like other bosses. Sometimes bosses are roaming around. It kind of remixes things a little bit. I feel like it's actually kind of maligned a little bit in the Bloodborne community, but I feel like it would do well in Destiny just to have randomized dungeons with bosses like scattered about.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
So beyond that, Iron Banner has been a lot of fun. I'm still on that. This week I've been on that Redrick's broadsword grind again. Still doing it. I'm still at the tail end of my double kills now. I'll keep you guys posted because I'm sure you guys all care. That's it's quite the battle. I'll say that. It's fun though. I think the gun's going to be worth it when I get it. And that'll tie into our topic for the week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm getting wrecked with it constantly, so it has to be pretty good. It has to be good.
At this point, I'm almost thinking the Lunas might be a little better. I'm thinking Lunas might be like top of the tier 1 for gunplay. It's super good.
Yeah. Which one's Lunas? That's the competitive one?
Yeah, there's Lunas, and then there's, what is the other one that goes beyond Lunas? It's like Not Forgotten or something.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys know.
I didn't even know that was tied to that.
Yeah, so you get Lunas first, and then if you keep on going further with your rank, there's another one you get. I think it's Not Forgotten, and that's even better, because I think it has better range. I could be wrong on this, but those two guns are dominating. They're at least 1 and 2 right now, I think. And if you were to break down the Crucible meta, they're doing work. Beyond that, have you finally gotten into the raid, lady?
No, not yet.
Oh my goodness.
I'm so behind right now. I need to get I need real life to stop being quite so demanding, and then I can actually just game all the time.
Don't you know Destiny is life?
Destiny doesn't pay my bills, unfortunately.
Yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's right. Monetize this.
That's right. Someday.
But no, hopefully laptop's going to be fixed this weekend, which is exciting because then I can fully transfer to playing Destiny on PC. So
we'll be happy to have you.
Which will be good, and then I can get in the raid.
Yeah.
Let's see. Other than that, this week I picked up Black Ops 4 for Call of Duty, and I played that a bit. That's a lot of fun. I mean, we're beyond a podcast as well as a Destiny podcast, so I want to talk about that. I mean, that game's a lot of fun. It's getting some good reviews. It's a good time if you like Battle Royale, if you like good multiplayer. I would check it out. Look into it. It's a good time. And it's available right on the Battle.net app, which is freaking awesome. You don't have to go far at all. It should be right below your Destiny game. So
I heard it feels like the final form of PUBG. Is that correct?
It's pretty correct.
It's basically described as PlayerUnknown's Battleground, just doesn't look like and play like garbage.
Right. Right. You're not running into hackers everywhere, as far as I know.
Yet. Eventually some 14-year-old's gonna get sued.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Everything's fluid, everything works. I haven't run into any network issues. It's pretty fun. I'm enjoying my time in that while I'm away from Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's it for the weekly wrap up. I mean, I think everyone's kind of holding their breath for this coming week, and we'll get into that later. Let's jump into this week at Bungie, the TWAB for the week. Not a long one, not a big TWAB. And I know Greg's grimacing over there because he hates when I say TWAB. TWAB.
It sounds like it's like the Destiny equivalent of phlegm. It's just the worst word of all time.
Like, hold on,
this serves the same purpose.
I gotta clear my throat. I got some TWAB in there.
Yeah, right. Or like something you smear on a bagel. I don't know. I just hate the word. I just can't stand it.
Can you pass me the TWAB, please?
A brand of toilet brush.
Oh boy, we're really going down the toilet.
This week at Bungie.
Look how good that sounds.
So this week at Bungie, not much going on the TWAB this week. They basically said, hey, Festival of the Lost is underway. Hope you're enjoying it. Which we are, it sounds like, for the most part, except for Lady here, who hasn't been in there.
I've done a little bit.
A little bit?
A little bit.
Oh, it's a serviceable event. It's serviceable. It's nothing crazy, but it's not like the Dawning last year. It's way better. I think the punch out rewards is where it is, because I'm actually getting things, and it's pretty cool. Beyond that, in the TWAB, because we've covered that at length. Free pumpkin stencils. I know you were excited about that, Lady.
Super excited about that.
No,
it's a bad week when that's the highlight of the 12.
Oh, that's true.
Now, Killer Greg and I are roommates, and the other day I'm just sitting here playing Destiny, grinding away, and I start smelling pumpkin. And I'm like, why am I smelling pumpkin? And I go out, and you're carving a pumpkin.
Yeah, man. The girlfriend wanted to do it. When a girlfriend demands pumpkin carving, you carve pumpkins.
You gotta carve the pumpkin.
That was fun, man. I'm not gonna lie, that was a good time. So
you were 2 days early though. Had you waited like 2 more days, you could have had these sweet stencils.
Right. I know. That's what they're talking about when they say Bungie needs to communicate to their to the players better. They need to let me know well in advance that I'm going to be able to carve a ghost into a pumpkin.
Some of those designs are pretty cool, actually. I wouldn't mind grabbing one of those for like a Destiny tattoo, honestly. Because that's something that's coming. I'm getting a Destiny tattoo when I hit my weight goal eventually.
Yeah, what are you getting? You don't know yet?
I don't know yet. It's in the air.
So many good options.
I have a ghost.
You have a ghost?
Do you?
I do. I have my very own Destiny ghost on my thigh.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys comment below, and the greatest comment will inspire me. I'm not going to do it.
You just need Omnigul.
Whatever
a whole
you vote on,
piece.
He'll do.
I need to get Osiris's portrait.
That's right. Just Lord Shax on your butt cheek.
This is awesome.
The helmet stays on.
Let's see. Beyond the pumpkin stencils, Rockstar has an ongoing competition that's going on. I think we're going into week 3. This is currently week 2. This is a strike week. The Rockstar Energy Riots in-game competition live through November 7th. Go ahead and check that out. Google it and to get in there if you need to. It's pretty cool. They got a lot of cool rewards going on right now. And a lot of people can earn the rewards pretty easily. Just by devoting an entire week of gameplay in a certain avenue. Next week will be Gambit. So for anyone who loves Gambit and, throwing around some sleeper beams, it'll be for you.
And your last week of being able to use Sleeper productively in Gambit.
Oh, that's right. The nerf is coming on the 30th.
Mm-hmm.
The nerf, they're just doing ammo, right?
They're just doing ammo.
That's fine. 3 shots is all I ever need anyway.
They're only giving you 2, though.
Well, the 2 total, like per block, or does it only hold 2?
Yeah, 2 per brick.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's not a nerf. That's not a nerf. Get out of my way.
Right. The like realistically, the only nerf that's going to work is like damage drop off over range, or maybe a smaller hitbox. Because as long as I can shoot someone in a toe and take them out, I'm happy with 2 shots. I think that's it for the TWAB for the week. It wasn't a big TWAB at all. If you guys want to check it out, though, if you guys want to go online, there's a pretty sweet Edge Transit movie of the week.
Mm-hmm.
It's very inspired by current events. So check that out. That was a good time. You guys have any other thoughts on the TWAB?
Nope. I think that's basically this week at Bungie summed up.
Have you guys discussed the disparity between balancing in PvE and PvP? And what a weird... I mean, maybe that's a topic for the future, but...
Yeah, I think that's an entire topic on it.
Yeah, if there's been one pervasive Destiny issue, it's been that over all 4 years now.
That's a good point. I think that's a really good possible topic for someday. And we'd love to have you back on for that episode too, because I'm sure.
Yeah, let me know.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know how much there is to actually say about it. There's a problem. That might be the discussion.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk it out. Yeah, and like that's a very interesting topic. I mean, how do you handle that if you're Bungie? I think I have several ideas of how you handle that, but I'm not a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I have some ideas too, I guess. But...
Well, let's book that in.
All right.
We're gonna pencil that in.
Put that in.
We're gonna you heard it here, folks. That'll be next week's topic. We'll be going into the disparity between PvE and PvP balancing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. Usually this takes days to think of a topic, and live on air, we just thought of one, so that's great.
Look at that.
This week we're going to be hitting you guys with a new segment. Lady's going to be spearheading this. Now we all love the lore. We're going to be doing a weekly lore spotlight, and this week I believe we have something special. Why don't you take it away, lady?
We do. Okay, well, this week I thought, as it is our first lore segment, it'd be really great to tackle a character who's really jumped to the forefront of our Destiny experience during the Forsaken DLC. So I just really wanted to whiz through Petra in a nutshell. Petra Venge, Regent Commander of the Reef in the absence of Queen Mara Sov. And I think Petra she's a super interesting character because her story has not been straightforward at all. As I'm sure you guys all know. She obviously Awoken military. She started off at the bottom, as many Awoken did. And then it was through the loss of her sisters during the Rays of Amethyst that is what inspired, sorry, my words are all in a jumble right now. I've got so much lore going through my head. Following the loss of her sisters at the Rays of Amethyst, Queen Mara Sov decided to promote Petra as a way of distracting her, really. House of Wolves had come in, they'd killed everybody. Petra was the only survivor. And she was angry, which I think is pretty understandable. So Mara decided she was going to channel that and send her to strike back at the Wolves, which turned out to be a pretty good decision because Petra led the attack on the Silent Fang and wiped out nearly all the wolves that were there.
Wait, let's do a little backstory first. Who are the wolves and why were they fighting them?
Who are the wolves? Sorry. House of Wolves. The Fallen Houses. We come across them quite a lot through the Destiny game. House of Wolves. Why were they fighting them?
So, okay.
Do you know what? I literally don't know the answer to that question. I haven't looked that bit up.
So this is a very interesting part of the lore in that during the battle of, I can't remember if it was Twilight Gap or the Six Fronts. I think it was this battle of Six Fronts. There was, the Fallen Houses were surrounding the last city. They're trying to take it. Now, the House of Wolves were the tipping point. They were the house that they were going to be the last to show up. They had there's millions of them. And if they end up on Earth, we lose.
Mm-hmm.
So Mara Sov knew this. She knew that humanity hung in the balance. Now at this point, the Awoken had come back from their pocket universe. But no one knew they were there. They were still hidden in the reef. So I
think we should add there that they were very aware of us.
They're very aware. Well, they
very
were
aware of us.
They were human.
We were not. Yeah, but they knew we were there and they knew what Guardians were, but they were keeping themselves way, way out of sight. They didn't want to be found at that point.
So the House of Wolves actually were on their way, and Mara decided to sacrifice their stealthiness, the fact that they're hidden and safe, to intercept them and to stop them from making it to Earth. In effect, saving us and allowing us to turn the tide of that battle at the cost of Awoken lives. So
and a lot of Awoken lives and a lot of battles on the reef, which really is why we see the reef in the state that it is today, especially the shattered the Tangled Shore.
The Tangled Shore.
Get my words out.
Yeah, it started the Reef Wars, as they were known. And this is where Petra came in. This is where Petra shows up and where she fails and gets a bunch of people killed, as you were just alluding to.
I was. So Petra obviously was quite vital in the fights up until that point. And then she'd managed to track down, after the end of the Reef War, she'd managed to track down some wolves who were hiding away in a bit of a valley, really. She knew that Guardians were in the area, and she knew that Guardians were planning on making an attack at some point, but she assessed the situation that her and Aldrin's crows could probably take them out quicker than the Guardians could. So she orders this airstrike, and in the process of wiping out the wolves that she'd seen, she also wiped out 3 teams of Guardians, which pissed the speaker in the city off pretty badly. Leaving quite a mess, really, for Mara to clean up in her wake. And that then led to Petra being banished to the tower, which I'm sure the people of the tower were super happy to receive Petra as envoy to the reef following the incident that she'd caused. So yeah, that was her fall. And she spent quite a long time in the tower, not being listened to, nobody really wanting her opinion on what the reef was after or what the purpose of the reef was, just generally hating on her and writing messages back to Mara begging just to go back to the reef. Do you guys know what the event was that triggered Mara to call Petra back to the reef?
No idea.
It was the reappearance of Skolas.
Oh,
Of course, they'd been previously captured and then had managed to escape the prison of elders. So the Queen summons Petra back. She knows that Petra is absolutely determined to win her place back within the Queen's respect, and she sets her on the hunt to recapture Skolas, which we know, of course, is successful because we then get to challenge him in Prison of Elders and get the really cool ship if you beat him. So the thing I really struggled with, and I don't know if you guys have found anything, I don't know if it's just not available yet, is how she then climbs to this rank of Regent Commander. Because that's a pretty heady height from a Corsair who gets expelled to then basically being the Queen's number 2 while she's not
because she becomes
acting
the
Queen
wrath.
while she's not there. She does.
I think it's mainly because, how do you say it? Shajur Ido, right? The previous Queen's Wrath.
Yeah.
She ends up going missing. So there ends up being a vacancy, and I think just Petra Venj ends up being the number 1 best person for the role just because she's Petra Venj. She's crazy, you know?
And she's so indebted to the Queen, obviously, for bringing her back. But the other thing to remember about Petra is the Techians don't like her. And a lot of the Paladins don't like her. And if you read that through the lore, they are up to all sorts of stuff behind Petra's back.
Really?
Yeah, asking her. There's one bit where 3 of the Techians go down into the prison and they go and start talking to Taken. And doing everything kind of under the radar without Petra knowing. So there's quite a lot happening at the reef, even though sort of Petra seems fairly stable. Those around her are they're not her biggest fans.
So where is most of this lore? Like, where do we find this? Is this all the grimoire from the first game, or?
I think it's new stuff that you can find actually in the lore tabs. Yeah,
it's quite a mix. So we'll do a little plug here. Ishtar-collective.net is your place to find easy reading lore. And it crosses over the 2, actually. There's quite a bit in the grimoire about Petra and the fallen houses and her getting banished. And then the newer stuff about her as Regent Commander and what everybody else is up to at the reef is in the lore for Destiny 2.
You know, I think Mara eventually promotes Petra because Petra ends up being disgraced and then coming back to it for a full circle redemption story. But her redemption is because Mara chose her to be redeemed, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I think Mara Definitely. Very much likes people to be in her debt almost. And Petra's in her debt for that promotion. I mean, Shajur Ido was trying to kill Mara, right? That's part of her story. She was trying to kill her, and then instead of executing Shajur, she promotes her to Queen's Wrath. So Mara has this interesting history of making people connected to her through giving them prominent roles.
Yeah, she really does. And there is another piece about in Destiny 2 where Zavala goes to the reef and he offers the Awoken shelter within the city. He opens the city doors and says, if you want to come and live with us and be safe, you're more than welcome. And Petra obviously finds this a horrendous idea and won't leave the reef. And he makes reference to how people are captivated by Mara and how she sort of infiltrates their minds. And that is what then keeps them at the reef rather than sort of being independent Awoken like the Guardians are.
I appreciate what Destiny 2 has done for Mara Sov. Like, you know, they've really fleshed her out a lot, especially in this expansion, obviously, but just in general, she felt relatively inconsequential to me in like vanilla Destiny, and a little bit more with the Dreadnought. But even that cutscene at the beginning makes virtually no sense until recently.
Right.
So
it was like the biggest lead into a story ever.
Yeah, boy. I mean, that was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
I have to give them credit. I think Bungie's done a tremendous job of like paying off seeds that they planted years ago at this point.
It's true.
Dreadnought really was a complete turning point for this series. Not Dreadnought, whatever it was. King's Fall. What was the name of that?
The Taken King.
The Taken King.
Taken King. Thank you. I'll just keep saying words that kind of pertain to it.
But they did that as well, didn't they, with the Exo Stranger? And we don't find out who the Exo Stranger is until Warmind.
I still want more of that. That feels like a throwaway. They're like, shit, we gotta address that. They're never gonna shut up about it.
I think. So they said
there's got to be more.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Luke Smith came out and said that the story of the Stranger was done. I think that's very tongue-in-cheek. I think the story of the Stranger is done, but I think it's because she's Elsie Bray, and I don't think Elsie Bray is done.
Sure.
I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised by the number of things that go, oh my goodness, like, do you remember that bit in D1 where?
Yeah.
Or do you remember that bit in Vanilla D2 where?
Well,
and all suddenly sort of fills the story out a little bit.
Granted, Destiny 1 is old news now. Like, most people don't remember that. A lot of people playing Destiny 2 probably haven't even played D1. But vanilla Destiny was a mess. It's nonsensical. So if they want any closure for most of their fans, they have to go back and address that stuff. It was so insanely vague. I can't believe they ever got away with it. Somebody, what is it? The Black Heart's coming back, right?
Is it?
It wasn't that. Yeah, there was something about the Black Heart from the Garden being relevant again soon. So
the Black Armory.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing is that I'm thinking is that so there's two things. The Drifter has a big giant ball that has something inside it, and we don't know what it is. That could be. I was thinking and theorizing that could be a part of like a Black Heart, like something along those lines. But
I mean,
also
add to that we don't actually know who the Drifter is.
Right, exactly. In the Black Garden, though, there was flowers that grew, and this is actually pretty big for along the Awoken storyline, because the flowers that were in the garden were picked by Aldrin and planted in the Dreaming City. And they grow there, and there's many references, especially in this week's storyline, where they talk about how the flowers have to be picked, how they have to be cultivated because they can grow into something terrible. The flowers, people are thinking about them almost synonymously with the darkness, that there's something tied to the darkness like within them. So it's interesting to think about. That maybe the Blackheart's not coming back, but it's definitely still playing a part of the storyline.
But in context of just D1, like, that's nonsense, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
It's all nonsense. Like, okay, cool. The end of the game, we got here. Sure.
Yeah.
Right. The storyline from D1 is very small, but like, yeah, you're right though. The writing going into D2, like with Petra, with the Queen, all this stuff, it's coming around, and we're seeing a lot. We're seeing that the water is a lot deeper, and then we're not wading through shallow water. You know what I mean? There's a lot more to dive into here, and it's exciting stuff. Is that what we have on Petra for the week?
Yeah, that's all I've got at the minute. I'm quite excited to come on extra for her, and I think some more will come. I think especially we start to see the return of the Queen. It's going to upset the balance a little bit.
Oh, I don't think we're done with this storyline in this DLC.
At
I think there's
all.
still a lot more going on, even in this DLC.
I'm very curious to see what happens next week in the first week of the cycle again.
So we're going to go into some spoilers here, and this plays into Mara and Petra and all that kind of stuff. Did anybody get inside the throne room this week with Marasov?
Oh yeah,
because there is something waiting for you in there. There is some good lore. There's like she talks to you like about the darkness and the traveler and all that kind of stuff. But there is there's a huge spoiler in that room. Did you see it at all, lady?
I've not yet, but I am open to spoilers.
Okay, so when you go in there, you find out that she has a table that's one of the focal points of her throne room there, and there's a hologram of the pyramid ships there, and then she talks to you about how a new collapse is coming, and how we'll see. What does she say, Killer Greg? Because you were there. She's like, there's a new collapse coming, and when the traveler loses, like, you'll see something or whatever.
Yeah, I don't recall off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
I can't recall it either, but it's so good. I urge you, if you've not been in there this week, go check it out, because this story is evolving week by week, and it's something special.
And I think that's a really exciting thing that Bungie are doing, that it's not just a flat packed DLC, that it is something that's growing in front of us.
Right.
And they've not done that before, and it makes it really exciting.
It's impressive too, like it's not easy for video game companies to make so much changing content. The fact that they've laid this all out ahead and stuff, it's quite impressive, especially if they really only did it in a year. I mean, they had to have been working on this longer than a year, right?
You'd think so, but they have a lot of people, so who knows?
They're saying, weren't they, that DT started development kind of the minute that Destiny 1 released. So, I think the story development's probably been there a lot longer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But then that doesn't explain why Osiris and Warmind were quite so terrible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Warmind got pushed off to another company, right? I mean, Vicarious Visions made Warmind. And I think it was like a half and half action with Osiris. So, I mean, that makes sense. Also, maybe they just simply didn't care that much. It's like, part of their deal. I know it was a really big deal with their original thing with Activision, was like they were required to put out so much content at a certain time frame. I mean, maybe they were just doing contractual obligations.
And getting ready to deliver this instead.
I honestly feel like D2 released too early, and the lore was stitched in, but I feel like we almost got a beta in the first year, and the lore is there, but it's there very minimally, because they gave us what they could in the time frame they had.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It was basically an early access game, like Prison Architect came out 3 years before Prison Architect came out. They're just doing that, but on a bigger scale.
The thing is, I've always been excited because they created a phenomenal base, and now it's starting to build out, and it's great.
Yeah, that's what I've always said. I mean, Destiny, there's a million problems with it, but at the base, it is the best. It has the best game feel of maybe any game ever made, especially any first-person shooter. There's something intangibly great about the way Destiny plays that just keeps you coming back.
And that's it for our weekly lore spotlight on Petra Revenge. We went off on some wild tangents there.
In my defense, I'm known for that, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's absolutely okay. Petra's cool as hell. We love Petra. I say she's bae. By far my game crush.
Aww. I
have a very strong suspicion she wouldn't be into people of your yeah, there you go. Then
I can twirl a knife, maybe.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
I'm sure that's how sexuality works.
So with that, let's go ahead and jump into our topic for the week. The grind.
Are we not there yet?
Yeah, we're there. We're there. We have made it.
Finally.
our topic: the grind, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how it pertains to Destiny. So, first and foremost, let's jump into what is a grind. What is grinding? I think it can most easily be summed up by saying straight up, it's performing repetitive tasks for a gameplay advantage over time. That's basically what it is for the most part, as it pertains to all games. As it pertains to Destiny, I mean, there are so many different types of grind in Destiny. I don't know about you guys, but when I think about grinding in Destiny, there are several grinds that are introduced. In D2, when that came out, there wasn't, but it's opened up. I think there's a lot good going on. I think there's some things that need work, but ultimately there are several different goals that you can have in the game if you want to grind them out, and it's really up to you to define what you're going to do. What do you guys think about the grind? How are you guys approaching this topic?
When I was thinking about it this week, I was primarily thinking about weapon grinds. But now we're talking about it more. I'm thinking about, well, I suppose it's still weapon grinds, and I think most of the grinding in the game is related specifically to weapons. But obviously on different levels, because you've got like the Nightfall specific loot, and you have the people that will sit there and grind Nightfalls until they get that gun to drop. You've obviously got the EP grind as well. And then you've got the challenges that you pick up, like the Redrick's broadsword. As well as then the completionist grind, I guess.
Yeah. What do you think, Greg? There's all sorts of grind.
Yeah. Boy, Destiny, they do a peculiar job of sort of appealing to each type of person, to each type of video gamer. Like, you can be, Vanilla D2 was very casual, which, I feel like, top 5% was upset about, but I think most people were content with that grind. Well, that's my opinion. I know you guys probably disagree. But there's, as you mentioned, there's so many different ways, and Destiny does a tremendous job of appealing to each one. Like, if you just want one of everything, you can do that grind. If you just want to be top tier in Crucible, you can do that grind. I don't know if grind is really a good thing in video games, but it's certainly prevalent.
So philosophically, I think you hit on something there. In video games, I think that's a good place to tackle first, as far as this conversation goes, like an overarching gaming, like from a gaming standpoint. I think grind is something that almost every game has in some way, for the most part. As long as you have a character that has some amount of progression, you're good. There has to be a grind. There has to be a kill X creature, 0.001 XP. Kill another one, 0.002. You move forward. You push the bar. You farm. You go up. You get more items. You attain something. Now, because we're creating a character that we care about that has progression to it, we're gonna have grind, and every game has that for the most part. I mean, you have your games like PUBG that don't have that. But,
well, they do, though, don't they? Because I was just thinking about that. Even those sorts of games, they have the grind to get better, to master the different modes. So it's still there.
That's like a skill grind almost, but it's not something that you can see. It's not quantifiable. It's something that you gain yourself.
Well, that's. I think there's two types in gaming in general now, and I think it's sort of why Destiny grind or any type of RPG grind feels a little hollow to me, because a game like PUBG, the grind is you getting better.
Yeah,
like you grind games, you get better, you have greater skill now. Sometimes, and Destiny still has this, obviously. Like, there are people who are better at PvP. Ed and I can have the exact same weapons. One of us is going to be better than the other. Like, that exists in this world. It exists in Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
But Destiny in general, and just these types of games, they're appealing to that feeling that you have. Like, you feel like you're getting better when you achieve something, when you get a rare weapon drop or something. It triggers that part of your lizard brain that says I've achieved something.
Yeah.
when realistically you haven't. And this is just my philosophical opinion on grind in general and video games in general. When you got good at Mega Man, you were good at Mega Man. Like, you started at 0 all the time, and as you progressed further in the game, you were getting better, and that triggered your brain saying, I'm improving as a person.
I think that happens in Destiny. I think of a number of raid crews that I've been through and raids that I've taught, and you see the same people back in after week, and all of a sudden it just starts to fall into place. And the next thing you know, you've got a super slick raid team.
Sure.
I think that skill grind is there, but perhaps just not in the same way.
Sure. I will go ahead, Dad.
I will tell you this, that I've just been playing hours and hours and hours of Crucible, just trying to get this broadsword, and I've already noticeably have gotten better at Crucible, skill-wise, just from doing that, just from repeatedly grinding out games. And I think that there's this is such an interesting topic because of how layered the grind is when you think about it, because there's so many different ways. Like you're saying, there's the skill grind. There's how it pertains to the game in general, just from a structural standpoint. There is the exotic grind, there's the gear grind, there's the leveling grind, 0 to 50. There is the power level grind from when you hit 50 until 600. There is the Crucible grind, there's Valor, there is Glory, there is Infamy. There are so many different types of grind just encapsulated within that has nothing to do with your skill, but it's all time served. It's all things killed, things gained, things ventured, right? So there are so many different types of grind in the game, and I really want to hammer down where the game has been and where it's going, because I think if we look at Destiny 2 when it first released, Vanilla D2, the grind, like you said, Greg, it was very casual focused. The game, it rewarded you for like an hour to a day, if that. Maybe for a few days. You could knock out your milestones very quickly. The grind was very easy. The exotics were flowing like champagne on a wedding night. You know what I mean? Like, sure. Everyone had like all the exotics in the first month if you were playing at all. So
yeah.
There's a
so I think you did. Yeah, Vanilla Destiny 2 probably didn't really have a grind. Or had a bad grind, a minimal grind, yeah.
I think it had a bad grind. I don't think the chase was there. And I think when you talk about grind, I think it's important to talk about chase, about the goal, about why you're doing it, right? And I think you hit on this, Greg, is that games in general have bad grind, or grinding is not that great because it can be used to superficially inflate a game's length and the content so that people play it longer and spend more money on the game. Especially you see that with microtransactions.
Right.
The harder you make something, like especially free-to-play games, the harder you make a game, and then the longer it takes to progress from 0 to 1, the more decimal points you put in there, right? If you offer like microtransactions to mitigate that, to give you XP boosts, then there's a real push in the gaming community to do that. Well, there has been, and now it's kind of coming away from that. But it's easily to superficially inflate your game that way. Like games like Path of Exile that have you diving in and getting a bunch of loot, but then limiting your loot space in your inventory, so you have to constantly be going back and forth, and then you can buy upgrades to your inventory. Stuff like that. That might be a little off topic, just a little bit, but I don't know.
It seems relevant to me. Because grinding is a universal thing, and what we're really talking, like, you have to define it as an abstract idea before you can apply it to the game that we're actually talking about at hand. Because why? Why does Destiny have so many different grinds? Why are there different weapons? Why are they perpetuating the further gameplay? Bungie doesn't do anything for no reason. I mean, it may seem like it sometimes, but at some point they made a decision. So there has to be a reason why Destiny has so many different ways to grind right now. And what is that? It has to be to make money, right?
Well, this is what I think is the special thing about Destiny, is that I don't feel like Destiny super inflates its content. I think they give us, the one thing you can complain about is that maybe sometimes we don't get enough content, but I don't think it super inflates it. I think they give us really like a really good meal, right? And it's up to us to eat it as we will. But they're not just filling us up with salad. It's prime cuts of food here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think as well, the grind is what keeps people coming back. That Destiny grind, it's like a badge of honor that people wear. You know, you see it all the time, like the time wasted on Destiny posts of how many hours people have taken or spent playing the game, and they're proud of it. I, for one, feel like I get my money out of this game.
Oh, absolutely.
When you sit down and work out how many pounds per hour it costs to play, you know,
Sure.
It definitely gives a value for money and a sense of pride in what you can achieve.
Well, there's two different people and two different kinds of gamers out there, right? There are the people who want there are the microwave people who want things instantaneously and don't want to grind. They want to play their PUBGs, their Maddens, their games that can be like where it's an adrenaline rush that can be encapsulated within 30 minutes time, right? At any given point in time. You don't have to grind out anything. And then there's the people who love the role-playing aspect, the character building aspect, who love the grind, who jump in. And I think that it's important. And I think I believe Destiny does it well.
It's actually fun. Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
It's actually funny you mentioned Madden, because Madden's pure grind now.
Is it really?
Yeah. So there's the I think it's called Ultimate Team mode or something like that, where it's literally just microtransactions and grinding.
Ooh.
Like you don't even play the games. You simulate the games to just get more cards and stuff. Like Madden is from when the last time you probably played Madden, which I would guess was probably 2003 or something. You wouldn't even recognize it anymore. And that's every game. I read an article a while ago, maybe like 2012, 2013, something like that, where every single game is an RPG now. You know, whether you think it is or not. Every single game has included RPG elements to it. You don't get just like, you know, Medal of Honor was not an RPG. You don't get that anymore. You always have upgrades and all that type of stuff.
Well, I believe the newest Assassin's Creed Odyssey just got knocked for this in a few reviews that I've seen, where they superficially bloated the grind, because from what I've heard, the first act is really good, the ending act is really good, but the middle requires you to level up through side missions by doing a lot of side missions, or you can pay for an XP boost and then go through like with one side mission to gain your level. So that seems like almost egregious to me in a way that Destiny, I think, conquers that, because now I might disagree with the way that D2 is handled as far as progression goes, because I'm not casual. I like to play the game for hours a day and just get in there and hammer things out. But that goes back to the second kind of player, right? The player who likes to push the bar forward, even minimally, and attain things. And that's something that Destiny does really well, is that in this second year of Destiny, since Forsaken has come out, even before that, with the Claymore, I'd say, they refocused themselves and they kind of fixed the game. In vanilla D2, there wasn't much of a reason to be skilled at the game. There wasn't much of a reason to grind. Everything was attainable. The only thing that you could grind was like, you could grind out like your Meta multi-tool, your Rat King, your Sleeper eventually. You can grind out different guns that took a little bit to get, that weren't just based on RNG. They actually took some work. Those were cool. But then they came out with the Claymore, and I think the Claymore is it was a really good weapon. It exists now as the broadsword, and it's skill gated. They made a commitment to get back to rewarding people for skill and time invested, right? I think that's a beautiful thing. I think the broadsword, I think Luna's, and this new archetype of weapon, of extremely good weapon that are gated behind really hard grinds, is a really good thing.
I think my suggestion that I'd got listed under the ugly part of the section was going to be the Forge of Curse of Osiris, because I felt like that had so much potential, such a grind. It just didn't give you the reward at the end that you kind of deserved. I think that could have been really, really special.
That was actually, I really loved that, to be honest.
I loved the grind. I thought it was great. I was just a little bit disappointed with the weapons I walked away with at the end.
So perhaps the weapons weren't great, but I really enjoyed the storyline, like the through line of the same 14 and all that. Like that, in a weird way, I found that to be the most rewarding thing I've done in Destiny.
Really?
To complete the Forge.
Yeah, I truly love doing that.
It reminded me of the sword quests in D1.
Yeah.
That's which of course were really good as well.
Yeah, I don't know. That's funny.
I'd quite like to see another. I'd really like to see another version of the Forge. Yeah, I just think that I probably used those weapons that I got for like a week.
Sure.
And having put that much work into getting them, I was really hoping to sort of pretty special.
I felt like the Perfect Paradox, like I thought that was a pretty special gun, but sadly it gets outclassed by the Ikalel shotgun, so there's no point in having it.
So here's where I want to get into the ugly or the bad section of the grind of Destiny. Ikalel shotgun is an amazing weapon, right? We can all agree that that's probably top tier for your secondary slot. But the grind, so I think Destiny moving forward, they're going to be implementing systems in place so that you can have stacking opportunity every time you fail to get something, which is nice. It's necessary because I can't tell you how long I've grinded for the Ikelos SMG and just not gotten it. I've spent so long in there, maybe like I want to say like 4 hours just trying to grind for that thing, and I haven't gotten it. I've gotten tons of shaders, but no guns.
The RNG grind sucks. I think I would probably list the RNG grind under the bad.
For sure.
Of our section.
For sure.
I think this is it. This is what I wanted to talk about when it comes to grind as far as Destiny goes. Because there's two important things when it comes to grind where Destiny is concerned. There's the beautiful, beautiful grind where you can push something forward. There's the weapons like Sleeper, like Luna's, like Redrick's Broadsword, where you can see what you need to do. It's a mission. You can see the grind. You know exactly what you have to do to push that forward and to gain ground.
Yeah.
And then there's the RNG grind where you have to wait to kill these bosses, to get multiple people together, to have a chance at getting probably shaders. You know? There's something to be said about RNG and why it's important in games. But at the same point in time, knowing what you're working towards is important.
And I think locking those quests away, like Malfeasance, away behind RNG is just super infuriating. I'm glad that, to be honest, I'm really pleased that I saw that was in the 12, that they were going to up the drop rate of that, because I mean, I've seen the servitor once since that went live. The one thing I do play quite a lot each week is Gambit, and I have seen it once, and we drew with the other team, so no one got Malfeasance. It went into overtime. Oh my goodness.
What?
I've never even heard of that. I didn't know there was an option.
Yeah, if neither of you, we got like, everyone was like hopping through the portal, killing people, healing the blinking servitor. We went into overtime. Drifter gets very excited, by the way, if you go past the end of the match and keep going, and into his countdown period.
Oh no! Oh no!
It's just infuriating. And does it make Malfeasance special? Well, no, not really, because it's just luck whether or not you get it. You know.
Yeah.
Time is running out. Kill that
don't
primeval.
love that your success on that is tied to other people too. Because I consider myself pretty good at Gambit, but sometimes you get saddled with some real idiots.
Well, but in that particular matches, both teams got it to under a quarter. We just could not. No one could land that final blow in time. And that's just heartbreaking, actually, at the end of the day.
I think RNG grind, more than anything else, when it doesn't pay off, can result in feel bad experiences. And the thing I want to think that Bungie should probably aim to create feel-good experiences when people are dedicating hours of their day. You want people to walk away happy. Or feeling like
this. Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
Or feeling like they've accomplished something. That. Go ahead.
And this is something that we saw in Iron Banner, Year 1 Iron Banner, Year 1 Faction Rally. Where, I mean, it took me 2 Iron Banners to get my bloody Hunter cloak. I was so excited when I finally got that cloak, but I had so many sets of leg armor that I didn't need. And that I think is where I'm really pleased there are things they fixed again, but that's soul destroying grind, especially once you've deposited like the maximum number of packages that they'll even give you rewards out for, and you're just getting shaders.
Mm-hmm.
You cap that out and you're just like, wow, that was an entire week I didn't even have to show for it.
And I think that plays into the bad, right? Because like that's terrible. And they've addressed that. They've actually removed faction rallies. Yeah. They have the knockout system, and I think the knockout system. And I think the knockout system is where you need to be in these events, because you don't want duplicates. Definitely.
And if you're working hard at something, you're kind of earning it. That entire set. So yeah, I think we can agree that the RNG grind definitely falls under the bad.
Yeah, I would say so, just because of the ability for it to just leave a bad taste in your mouth on any given day. I've sat down to do that SMG grind several times for hours, and it just has never panned out for me. I've watched other people get multiple copies in the same lobby, and it's just like, what the actual hell, guys?
That's real unmotivating when you're doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. You just don't get it. And that's been prevalent in Destiny forever. I notoriously didn't get the Gjallarhorn until the House of Wolves expansion came out, and I was I was pretty much a day one Destiny player. So everyone just running around with Gjallarhorn forever, and I'm sorry, I have this other pretty good rocket launcher. If you just please, for God's sakes, let me in your raid group.
Can I do Crota?
You must have Gjallarhorn.
Yeah, right.
Would you say that was your worst? What's your bad grind, Greg?
That's definitely. I mean, it was definitely that. Like I felt left behind because I didn't have it. And way more than anything now, people were ruthless about Gjallarhorn. It was like Icebreaker, Gjallarhorn. If you didn't have those two, they just wouldn't let you in the group. They would kick you before you even started.
That's like so with Destiny raiding, there always ends up, and this starts 2 hours after a raid's been completed, there always ends up being like a checklist for what you need to qualify as a LFG member. And it's not a real list, but it's something that the community comes up with because people don't want to spend forever. And it exists now. You need cluster rockets if you want to go face down Riven. You know what I mean?
And part of me gets it. I respect that people value their time. But to me, I play Destiny to raid. That is literally all I care about in this game. I could give or take PvP. I don't give a shit about Nightfalls. I don't care about all sorts of stuff. I play to raid. And when people just won't even let you into the group to do it, it's oppressive to me.
And I think you'll agree as well that obviously I've not been in yet, but the first 3 raids that we've seen in Destiny, you did not need specific weapons to do those at all. There was no weapon meta anywhere.
No, not at all.
Complete them with whatever you fancied.
Well, I mean, Vault of Glass was also a raid layer in retrospect. But yeah, it would be nice if there was no weapon requirements for raids, but yeah, I get both sides of that, honestly. What
I will say though, and like I don't know if you would consider this a good thing or a bad thing, but in Vanilla D2, weapons sucked. Like it wasn't until Whisper came along, and that was the last 2 weeks of D2. It wasn't until Whisper came along that any weapon was worth anything. Like every rocket launcher was essentially the same, so there was no reason to require anything.
And that was the stage where Sleeper was just breaking everything. Right. So even if you did use that, I mean, I remember using that in the Bather in the raid, and if you hit them with Sleeper, they came back to life with half their health because the programming literally couldn't handle the damage that Sleeper was doing. So, but I think Whisper was a game changer with that.
So I mean, in and now people want you to have Sleeper, they want you to have Whisper, the Ikelos shotgun, all that stuff, because now weapons are finally powerful again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a weird adverse effect to having interesting weapons, I guess.
Yeah, we're living out that power fantasy again, but then it's causing a ruckus for
Right.
some people.
Yeah.
So I guess if we had
Hashtag sleep is OP.
so if we had to summarize everything up to date, up to where we are now, grind exists in games. It exists for a reason. It plays to different players. The ugliest grind was Destiny Year 2, where it just went to the casuals, where there was not much to do for anybody. The bad would be RNG grind, if we had to summarize it right.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you can spend hours doing something and not get any reward.
Can I just advocate for the casuals for a second? Because I think I'm the only person on this podcast who's going to do it.
Well, no,
Like-
I'm a casual. You go
I
and see
love
what you're going
casual
to say, and then
players.
I'll.
They're important.
Well, it's just so I pulled up the I'm sorry, my total brain fart there. I pulled up the trophies for the PS4 for D2. And like only 20% of people completed a prestige raid.
Mm-hmm.
Only 30% of people completed the Leviathan raid, period. This isn't even a lot of people, any of that stuff. Only 60% of people completed a flashpoint.
Ooh.
So, I mean, flashpoint's the most basic thing at all, right? Only 77% of people reach level 20.
Wow.
So like, I'm a Reddit warrior on Destiny. I'm sure you guys all are too. You guys watch the videos, you read up you check the This Week at Bungie every week. Most people don't do that. Like 70% of people didn't even complete the raid, which is just like, I mean, that's borderline basic for us, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
So like, while it didn't work out for them, I understand why Bungie made that decision to cater to the casuals in D2.
But then you could also argue that with only 30% of people completing the raid, they didn't. Because if they had been catering to casuals, then that raid would have had a much higher completion on it.
That's true.
So
I mean, that's certainly
I think
part of it.
they've always kept their end game content has always kind of probably been a more toned down version than what we were perhaps used to by the end of D1.
Mm.
But then we've also started a new game, so maybe
So here's what I think about the grind now as it exists, and I think this is where it fits into the good for me, because I think Bungie has done an amazing job with Forsaken, with re-implementing the grind for everybody, because I don't think that the grind nowadays as it exists excludes casual players. I think it includes them, but I think it created a higher echelon for people to strive even further if they want to go further. I think the grind as it exists nowadays with the powerful endgame rewards, the fact that you can do like 30 different things in a week to level up, I think that's really special. It gives casual players the ability to play to whatever level they want, to do almost anything they want. And for the hardcore players, it gives a whole list of things every week for you to check off.
And I really like these weapons that need you to grind, to be honest, because that is then gives those that wouldn't class themselves as casuals something to work at. That if you are just playing the game casually to hang out with friends and again, you're probably not going to invest the time in doing.
Right. Yeah, I don't see a casual person wanting the broadsword for any reason,
Well,
it's pretty
no,
hard.
they definitely want it. They're just not so inclined to put the grind in to get it. And then that's where it pays off, isn't it?
I know you guys, this is so much longer than you're used to, so I'll keep
you're
it
good.
brief.
You're good.
No, it's good.
In PvE, it doesn't really matter if there's overpowered weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
But
yeah,
in
absolutely.
But in PvP, I mean, it's being dominated by broadswords now and Luna's Howl and all that stuff. I mean, do you think there's any detriment to that? Because like, if I'm a casual player, I only get to play, 2 hours a week when the girlfriend's in bed and the baby's asleep, and I was like, oh, I really like PvP, and then I just get obliterated by the same 3 weapons over and over and over again that I'm never ever going to be able to achieve. You don't think that's detrimental to the game at all?
No, because I think there are always alternatives. It's just a case of finding them. Because Through the entirety of year one, my loadout for Crucible was Martyr's Make and Nameless Midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And I never had a problem against any of the other metas, and we went through the Graviton Lance stage, and Graviton's quite fun if you want to go and piss people off.
Yeah.
But there's always an alternative, and if you play safe,
Sure.
you adjust your play style for the meta. And that's what I always think when I see posts where people are like, oh, it's OP and it needs to be nerfed. It's actually, change your play style, try something different and see what works, because
Sure.
there will always be another meta come around the corner. It's just
That's
not
true.
been found yet.
Yeah, that's an important fact. And I believe that it's important to put the most hardcore in the community on a task that'll take them a while. It's important to have things that are very hard to earn in the game. And
Right.
when they're really good, I think Destiny's really good. Because having something to aspire to is something that everybody can work on if they choose.
Right.
And there's
I don't disagree with that. But this is armchair quarterbacking. I feel like you should put some of some of the better stuff at the front, and then have interesting but powerful things at the end, like the Chaperone, for instance. Chaperone's a super weird, high skill level gun that if you're good with it, you're unstoppable. But most people are going to be bad with it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were doing things, I would put just uniquely powerful things at the back end of it. Like Broadsword doesn't seem uniquely powerful; it just seems good.
Right. But I mean, they also give you the Ace of Spades mission right away, and
That's
the Ace
true.
of Spades is probably
And that's
just
awesome.
in top tier as well. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And that's a good choice too. Ace of Spades is a great alternative that you can just do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, you get it right away.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think they struck a good balance here, honestly.
And I think all the way through as well, by leveling up and ranking up with your different factions, like with shacks and things, there's always been the weapons you can acquire by hitting certain levels, which are generally better than the ones that drop
That's true.
RNG. So I think even as a casual player, I describe myself as a casual PvP player, and I do.
Yeah. I'm real casual in PvP, even though I'm in a PvP clan.
I love where the grind is. I love where it's going. The one thing I would ask for is please bring back the old faction system.
Oh my goodness, yes. Was that on my list?
It was, yeah.
I think your mic is cutting out, lady.
Oh no.
That's all right.
All your good points were lost.
All your good points were lost.
I guess we win the debate.
Is that the topic for
Is
the
that
week? I think
working better?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think we've beat it over the head. The
I
grind,
know.
it exists. We love it for what
We
it
turned
is.
the grind topic into
That
a
really
grind.
is my specialty. On my other podcast, I just drive everyone insane because I just can't get off. Every topic inspires other concepts.
Oh,
to
you
me,
can
so
go
it's
down.
I know, it's like a tree.
Once the ball rolls, man, you can't stop the ball.
Yeah.
Does that mean we come on to the question time?
Yeah.
Questions. Hot.
Yeah, let's hit community questions.
I've got some community questions. I'm going to ask this one first, actually, because it's a relevant topic that we've been discussing. Is Luna's Howl... Sorry, this is UDubs182 on Reddit. Is Luna's Howl worth the grind?
Yes, I think we just hit that.
Yeah,
Pretty
You can't just nod on a podcast.
Actually, our video is live. We're going to be on
that's
YouTube
true.
this time around. I can nod all I want, but
I mean, do any of us have it? None of us have it, right?
No.
Lulu's Howl? So I'm going to assume yes because I'm getting masturbated by it every day.
yeah, everyone that's good in Crucible seemingly has it, so it's got to be great and it's got to be worth it, right?
Yeah, we've actually got some quite good grind-themed questions this week, so this works quite well. So, also from Reddit, DREC1998 says, should exotics be as hard to get as they currently are?
Yes, I am nodding, but the answer is yes.
Yeah, I have to say, it's frustrating, it's heartbreaking, but I love that exotics are now exotic.
I love the pace that we're getting them at because it makes them more rare. But I don't like that I'm not getting year 2 stuff interspersed every now and then.
Yeah.
I have had 2 exotics drop since Forsaken dropped, and one was the exotic Sparrow that I hadn't got from one of the strikes, and the other was a Forsaken exotic. So I'm pretty happy.
I think Ed's definitely like got it right. I think the pace is correct, but if they're going to do it at this pace, they got to do a better job of making sure it's stuff we don't have.
Right. Absolutely. Especially since like the exotics, like especially the armor, can change around your whole playstyle. That they're like subclasses in and of themselves sometimes. So like, it'd be nice to open up the gameplay from that point of view by like giving us some year 2 exotics. But yeah, I think that the pacing is correct.
Bars on Facebook, he asked about our thoughts on Lost, which we've given, and then went on to ask, do you think that the 600 power level auto rifle we get from Festival of the Lost is going to be viable for competitive Crucible?
No idea.
She says, asking 2 guys that raid.
It's an auto rifle? No. The answer is no if it's an auto rifle. Auto rifles are terrible in the Crucible, so it doesn't matter. It could be 900 power level.
Maybe next season.
Yeah, maybe next season. I don't know. Scathlock was the last time I thought auto rifle was viable, and it might not have even been, so.
Okay, the final one is Michael on Facebook. This is a really interesting question, actually, so I'm quite interested to hear your thoughts on this. In terms of supers and elemental affinity, do you think that the main NPC guardians' personalities determines their primary super use? Or does their starting super, when they're brought back to life, dictate their reborn personality?
Whoa.
I thought this was a really good question.
You might have to read that again, or copy paste it into the chat so I can read it.
There is a second part as well. But so in terms of supers and elemental affinity, do you think that the main NPC guardians, so like Shax, Zavala, Cade, their personalities are determined? Their personalities determines the super they use, or was the super they were reborn with the thing that dictates their personality?
Oh, all right, I see.
What it goes on to say as well is, do you think that our guardians are unique with the fact that we can access all 3?
I don't.
This is
well, maybe.
I think. Well, personally, I think that's kind of what makes a special thing. And obviously, when we hear about people like Shax, we know he's a Hammer Titan. She says, "No, Shax. Saladin is a Hammer Titan.
Yeah, that makes
Zavala is a Void Titan. We know that Ikora Void Lock. We know that Cade's Golden Gun. We never really hear of them using other elemental trees within their supers."
The implication I thought was that what made us special was that we could use all of them. You know, like I know Anna Bray is like a world famous gunslinger.
Right.
So, you know, like she was the most powerful gunslinger of all time. So to me, my understanding is that they each have a special affinity.
And the Drifter can use all 3 too.
Can he?
I know that's one of the things that makes him special.
Right.
Because he's bridged that ability as well.
Maybe they just have a preference and they pick it. You know, I certainly have a preference, but my understanding was that they only could do the one.
And do you think then that is perhaps determined by the type of personality they have? Because I think Zavala's probably the best case of, when you look at him, he is the city. He is the defender of the city. So to have him as anything except a Bubble Titan,
absolutely,
does not follow with his at all.
Yeah. And you know, it's Cade as a gunslinger makes total sense too.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. So does their personality make their super, or does their super make their personality? That was the question.
I don't think it's that tied to their personality or anything. I don't know lore-wise if they're tied into just one. I think it's just where they have ended up. Because, I mean, I very much use, like, one super for each class, like, primarily for the most part. Like, with my Warlock, I use, like, the new Arc Lock, the Chaos Reach. And I've been on that since the game came out. So, I mean, That's how I kind of think about it. I think they all prefer one thing, or maybe their personality dictates where they've ended up. I don't think they were locked in right off the bat.
But if you remember back to D1, there were references to like the Sunbreaker Titan, which is where you go and get your hammer class from. So maybe other Guardians are unique in their super ability.
Well, think about it this way. We know Ikora can throw Nova Bombs.
Mm-hmm.
And yet she's the one who gives us the Stormcaller.
Mm-hmm.
She talks about how the first time the Storm talked to her. So she can obviously do both.
Oh.
Yeah, that's very true. I also get the feeling that Ikora cases because she...
Yep.
Oh, what?
Mm-hmm.
Am I back?
I think it's probably an internet thing, not a mic thing, I suspect.
When you think about Ikora opening the gateway to the gardens for us to go and find Osiris, she didn't have light then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's special in ways we perhaps don't quite understand yet.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more going on with them than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the light usage. Maybe we're locked in. Maybe we're the only ones locked into subclasses. Who knows?
Maybe.
Whoa.
For game reasons.
Actually, doesn't Cade in that Forsaken opening use a bunch of different ones too? Now that I think about it,
he throws the knives, doesn't he? Golden guns and knives.
Are those the same class?
Blade.
I don't.
They're
Hunters
both
like
solar.
Different
okay.
trees. Yeah.
Got it.
Both solar. Anyway, I thought that was a really good question.
It's certainly interesting. Yeah.
Ikora, I hope we slaughtered it sufficiently.
So, is that it for the community questions?
I think that is it for community questions this week.
Cool.
All right, we're on to gaming news. For gaming news this week, we have pretty much nothing. Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out this week, and everyone's hyped for it. Everyone's excited. The world is holding their breath.
Yeah. It's a black hole of gaming, and everything is just getting sucked into it.
That and a bunch of lawsuits, but no one cares about that, right?
No.
Maybe
Although it
in
is
the future.
interesting. I find it very interesting that game companies are suing over modding their games. Like that's a big question that we won't go into now, but the idea of like them still owning the game even after you own the game is very interesting to me.
Oh, it's interesting.
Is it the modding of the games or the fact that people are making money by selling their games?
Well, I mean, that in and of itself seems fine. Like if you buy a car and then you bring it to my car shop and I customize it, that's your right and my right as a businessman. So at what point does the game become not theirs anymore? It's just an interesting intellectual property law discussion. We'll do that on the intellectual property law podcast coming up next.
Well, wasn't that like a big thing with Skyrim? Like, wasn't that like huge with Skyrim for a bit? With people charging.
Bethesda's huge on letting people do it. So I don't know. And is it the multiplayer aspect? The fact that, you're being adversely affected by this person's mods? What's different? Is it different in single player games? I don't know.
From what I understand, with Grand Theft Auto, the issue was that it made you invincible.
Yeah.
Which kind of then ruins the game experience.
Right. And that, and that's relevant too. But it's still an interesting realm that's worth discussing on something else.
It's also interesting that like cheats have gone from having like a Blockbuster book that was like this thick, full of cheat codes, to now having like your credit card just swiped to gain the cheat.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting world that we live in. Yeah,
I hate it. I'm a big proponent of once the game is yours, you should be able to do what you want. Like I don't like that they took cheat codes out of games, because to me that's half the fun. If I want to cheat to win, so who cares? It's a single player solo game.
Well, everything's
connected
nowadays.
I think with single player solo, I think absolutely. I think obviously the way, we won't go into too much detail, but the one that's announced that they're suing this week is Fortnite, which of course then it starts to affect other people and other people's enjoyment of the game. So,
right.
Not only that, but with like single player, like there's achievements that are tied to these, right? And achievement hunting has become like a big thing in the gaming community. So at what point?
I know in GTA 4, once you put a cheat code in, they told you straight up you weren't getting achievements anymore. So like they had them in there, and they had a concession to achievement hunting, but even that's gone now.
Interesting. Well, I think that does it for us for the week. I think
Yeah.
I mean, we've hit everything on the head a million times. So it's been now that was a good episode though. I think we talked
Thanks,
about
Greg.
the grind, we talked about gaming
You're
news.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Greg, for joining us.
Thanks. Can I pimp my other podcast real quick?
You can let us. This has been this has been the Destiny and Beyond gaming podcast. You can find us at Twitter on DBG Podcast. You can find us on Facebook with the same tag, and you can find Killer Greg.
Yeah, you can find me at KillerGreg17 on Twitter. And if you are into mid-90s WCW wrestling, very, very small market, you can check us out at idiotswithmics.com, WCWTF podcast. We're dumb, but it's fun. So there you go.
They do a really good job.
Can I plug myself?
Of course.
Now that our guest is finished. Greg, you're finished.
All right, I'm signing off. Good night, guys.
And I am at the Lady Guardian everywhere you can find @tags.
All right, you guys have a
Nice
good
to see you.
week. We'll see you next week with the PvP and PvE thing that we were talking about earlier. See you guys later.
Have a great
See
day.
you later. Bye.